Welcome to Huddle Up. We are back with another episode, and our special guest today is Coach Drew Gallardy, former player and coach now. And with me, as always, Rob Clock, holding down the fort. And tonight, our sponsor, we're really, all our sponsors have been great, and we're still reaching out, talking about all of them. Tonight, John DeHodway and his company, located out in California. And they were a big sponsor this past year for the spring game and everything we do RR4L. So, guys, speaking of fundraisers, this past weekend we had the golf outing, and I was unable to play, unfortunately, but you guys were there. So, how'd it go?
Yeah, I think we had a great weekend. We finally had some nice weather. The course was in good shape, except it was very wet, sadly, because of the rain a little earlier. So they did have to adjust some tees and all that kind of stuff. But it was great to see some new faces, some new foursomes made it. And yeah, we actually used some of my shots. So it had to be a pretty good day, at least for me.
Drew, how'd you guys do?
I think we were probably the worst round turned in that day. A guy in my foursome won closest to the pin. It was
Oh,
legitimately the only birdie we had on the day.
nice.
So
Good
for
time to
us, it
have one.
was yeah. For us, it was a little bit of a we got whooped. And while I have you both and anybody that's in RR4L paying attention, when I had coach, let me address the group a little bit, and I want to go back to the spring practice that you guys had put together that last weekend.
Hmm.
I talked about a little bit to the guys that were there golfing, but to anybody that wasn't there, that was part of that, especially being gone from the program for over a decade, I thought what you guys did that week was awesome. You know,
Thanks. Thank you.
Yes,
maybe
thank you.
I don't want to throw too many crazy words but incredible. And I'm not even talking about the monetary stuff, the gift stuff. What I said to everybody who was playing golf for the weekend is like whenever I was a player longer than I want to admit at this point, um, alumni would show up, but maybe they'd be the guy that's just trying to hang out with you at Wibs, after homecoming, and you're just like a little thrown off and weirded out by what's going on. So the fact that you guys are not only putting names to faces, telling stories, recruiting guys, making this database deeper and deeper and deeper is awesome. It is really, really cool. And just ending it, I'm pretty disappointed in guys my age because I know they can come out and play golf and I know they know how to work technology. Anybody that's, 40 and below, I guess, there's that, in my opinion, there's no reason why they shouldn't get more and more involved with you guys, get tied into things that you guys are currently doing, but also hear the stuff that went on like you did with our guys in that last practice. I thought that was a great use of time. And I hope that the kids, the roster, understands what you guys were doing during that time too, because like you said, I have two different perspectives. So not even being back for a year, seeing what you guys put on that last practice was really cool.
I appreciate that, man. I
Awesome.
know
Yes, thank you.
I know being out there, and Rob and I have talked about it, just being out there on the field, hearing getting up close with the guys, and being a part of that whole thing is just it's motivating for us.
It is. It's special. And to do it that whole weekend just with your brothers and yeah,
Hmm.
there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
The thing is, especially with the guys that haven't done it, like the first time they do it, they'll get hooked. You know what I mean? The first time that they come to an event, like the clearing game this year, a lot of guys came back and they just talk about making it an annual thing. Well, it's very, very simple. If you get tied into RR4L, like there's a wide variety of ways you can get tied into
Right.
coming back, whether it's the golf outing, the alumni game, homecoming, like they
Yeah.
just need to sign up.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying all of that. And we're trying to do it where, it's not just the old guys either. We're trying to recognize young guys and do stuff with, all groups, 2000s and up. And so, yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Drew. That does mean a lot.
And the reality is, we understand everybody's at a different stage in life. Us older guys, we don't have to worry about our kids anymore. Now we're worried about our grandkids and stuff like that. And we get it. Everybody's at a different stage. But the the truth is, financially, we all can do some support at some level. And again, I get it. Some people can give more than other people, but that's really where we're at. We need to give the coaching staff, you guys, some resources to go out and do what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, and it's not a lot of money. I think guys are also worried that if I join this, I'm going to be harassed for, money all the time. We're more about engagement than we are about raising the money. We want to raise money for the program, and it goes to the program, but we really want to engage the guys and get guys back. Hey, man, so getting into it a little bit and tell me what got you to ship as a player. Now, and you played in, give me the year again,
I
2000.
showed up in 2006 and graduated in 2010. So like that group that had all like the NFL guys, like, so there's two main reasons that I would tell you that I came to campus. I'm from Altoona originally, and for anybody that knows Mansion Park's a fairly large high school stadium.
Oh yeah.
It holds a lot, and there's a lot of playoff games, district games, state playoff games at Mansion. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a crappy reason or not, but like I just didn't want to go a place that had less seating than the place I played in high school. It just felt really strange to me. The Altoona Hollidaysburg game, I haven't been to it in a decade plus, but while I was there, there was standing room only situations,
Hmm.
just an awesome atmosphere for football. So Seth Grove presented that, presented a similar situation. Trevor Famularo and what he does with the band on a regular basis. Like, I'll tell you guys something pretty cool actually related to this. Central Bucks West, I have Berks Bucks in Montgomery County. So all the CBs had a joint practice, and there was like 10, 20 coaches there. And I bumped into somebody who I probably can't like name the schools and stuff like that. I don't want to rat him out, but we've crossed paths in a lot of different ways. Like he was a coach while I was a player here. We've coached against each other. I've been clinic by him, so we've crossed paths a lot of ways. He's been at every level, Division 1, 2, and 3. He said anywhere he's coached, the environment in Seth Grove Stadium is the best environment he's ever been at as an opponent.
Yeah.
And then the other reason would show you kind of the style of student I was, or currently am, I guess. I picked it because of a minor. The fact that Shippensburg had a coaching minor, I knew coaching is something that I always wanted to do. So the opportunity to be in a classroom and talk about it in greater detail was really, intriguing to me as a student. So I don't know what that says about me that I picked a place because of a minor as opposed to a major. But yeah, the stands and the major and the coaching minor were two big draws for me.
Cool.
Drew, who recruited your area when you were in high school?
Coach Burkett,
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, so because he's from Huntington, so he kind of has the Center County, Blair County still. And I told him a couple months ago the reason I came to Shippensburg is because I just picked a school that I thought the coach that would be able to beat everybody up, that all my other recruiting coaches. So the toughest coach is where I was going to end up. So I just figured, Iron Mike Burkett would beat the crap out of everybody else that came into school that fall. So that's why I picked it.
That's good.
He doesn't really laugh too many times, believe it or not. I don't even think he laughed when I brought that one up.
All right. So what were some of the highlights for you as a Red Raider?
Again, the number 2 sticks out to me. Two things that can stick out. The first one being on the 09 team, being on a team that won a conference championship. A lot of stuff happened while I was here, like Mansfield lost football, so we went from the west to the east while I was here. I think the state game wasn't back in place when I first showed up and became a thing while I was a player. So, in 09 to have a really successful year, to be part of an awesome bunch of dudes, and win the state game, go in the NCAA playoffs, there's not too many athletic achievements that I can rank up with that experience that I had as a player here. And then the other one was the next year, the following year in 2010, being elected a team captain by my teammates. That would probably be my most proud, athletic achievement is having a room full of guys elect me to kind of represent them at the start of football games. It was a humbling experience for sure. And, to put some gravy on it, it was also Coach Rees's last team, so the fact that I was me and Riley were Coach Rees's last two captains, is something that I really hold in high regard. So those two things definitely stick out during my time.
You played for Coach Rees. You played for Mac. There's some great players on this team. Who were some of the guys that were big influences on that team? Players, coaches.
The 09 team, it was always really interesting to me because I haven't really been back prior to being rehired here, and coming back as an employee. But right when Coach Mack had such early success early on with that team that scored all those points with Coach Urisic and Zully and and all those guys. Like a handful of those dudes were young, like scout team guys while I was here. But I bring that group up because at that time, there was always a discussion between our group in '09 and that group that they had in 2012. And I think kind of the consensus was that those guys would probably have an upper hand if we played them. And that's because they probably were more talented than the '09 team. But I hate to break it to you, everybody was probably more talented than the '09 team. We were picked fifth in the division that year.
That's amazing.
So like, again, we had some really good players on that group. Like Mike Harris was an All-American for a reason. But like just looking at the running backs we had back then, Kevin Marshall, Kevin Harrod, Rashad McCain, Mike Fournette was a true freshman playing for us that year. Those are four just stellar running backs, and the whole defense, all 11. Like, I don't know if anybody would watch those guys in '09 play and pick out the all-conference guys, but the truth about that group was like strength in numbers, truthfully. Where I maybe some of the later on statistic success is there, and you can see the guys who were doing it. It's hard for me to zero in on a couple of players that stick out, especially on the team that, that I was on and had that marked level of success. I told a bunch of them when they came back this fall, I've been in college athletics essentially since we've graduated, and just the ownership that the guys had on the program at that time, the responsibility that they had, the way that they handled themselves for the most part. It's not everybody, right? You got 100 guys on the team, but the overwhelming majority of the dudes, rowing the boat in the right direction was what made us so good. So I don't know if I'm doing it. I'm going to do a lot of people a disservice if I throw up a couple names, because we were truly a team that year, during that time.
I think it's interesting as a follow-up to that, just that, in '81, we weren't picked to do anything that year either. We were off the radar, and, we end up having this great season. And I always wonder what drove the team. Why did that happen? Because we were kind of ragtag really. And, but man, guys just came out of the woodwork. Did you guys
Yeah,
have?
I'm an undersized offensive lineman. Still, I was then too, but I was one of the bigger guys in the group, even still, so like I think we had in '09 200 yards in the ground and 200 yards in the air, like averaged it, in total offense. So you'd think there'd be some decent offensive line in the group. And I think we had one second team all conference performer that year,
Really?
like
Just one.
Yep.
Huh.
But I don't care, the championship rings back there, and that's way more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we found out how you got the ship as a player now, and I'm always curious about this with coaches and their journey. Tell us that. How did you end up back at Ship through your whole coaching experience and this whole journey of where you've ended up and how it all works out? Because I find it really intriguing and interesting for guys that do make the decision to do this. So how did that all play out?
I guess a weird way to answer the question, I never thought I'd be back, truthfully. And I'm not saying that in a negative way in any way, shape, or form, but I've been coaching for a while now, again, essentially since I've graduated school. And, as openings have shown up here, like I was on defense, I was calling, the defensive coordinator. So like as openings showed up here, like I was never really a good fit. I've never even asked or applied for a job, that's opened up here, because I just never thought that I'd fit the staff structure for the most part. But I'll go back to Coach Rees really quick too. Like he says something that's always stuck with me. He says coaching is a vocation. Coaching is something you're called to do, and that's one of the biggest misses that I have right now with Coach Rees. Is like, yeah, player-coach relationship was one thing, but the first time he ever saw me at the convention, he attacked me at the coaches convention, just trying to educate me in any walk of life, any kind, like it was information overload that first time him and I sat down and had a cup of coffee. So sadly, it wasn't super a long time for me to have him as a reference into this stuff. But how I got here, like I Coach Burkett actually knew Coach Gibney that was at Juniata College for a while. So when I first started looking, I actually got lucky through a reference through Coach Burkett and also the high school football coach, Tom Palfy at Altoona at the time. Those guys kind of helped me get an interview up at Juniata. And that job that I got in 2012 was 10 grand over 10 months. But I did have room and board taken care of. So they gave me a meal plan and they gave me, so I was working a dream job, truthfully. I was working a dream job in that I was coaching football and I didn't have to ask mom to help me pay bills. There was a kind of a sudden change here, a sudden adjustment to the staff very, very late into the summer that I feel for these guys here that, they had to, endure it and go through it because, turnover with coaches, it hurts programs. It hurts programs, no matter like who you replace them with. Like if Coach Matt comes in here, kicks me out tomorrow and they bring in Andy Reid, he's going to still have to learn some stuff about Shippensburg and how it works and so like turnover hurts programs. So the fact that there was such late turnover, these guys were really up against it, truthfully. In late July, in late July. And again, this past June, I wasn't thinking the chip was in the cards for me and my family in any way, shape, or form. So with the turnover happening, they obviously had to go to the drawing board pretty quickly. And I got a phone call and went through the process. It obviously had to be pretty quick for everybody, for my employer, for these guys here, for everybody involved. It had to be a quick thing. Yeah, to answer your question, I know it might have been a long-winded one, but I didn't think I'd be here a year ago, and July will be 1 year in being in the office and being in Coach Rees's office.
Well, and you say about the difficulty for the program, with that late turnover, but my hat off to you. You did a great job because same thing. You came in at a huge disadvantage. You didn't have a whole lot of time to meet the kids, to, get the system to where it needed to be. And you had, let's be honest, some green guys. You had a lot of young bucks, but I think you did a great job last year. And I'll tell you what, this spring, Fran and I both saw it. Huge improvements. You're doing a heck of a job. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. No, I know just from being out there at the spring game, I'm standing, I was there last year too, and I didn't know you because you were just basically walked in the door. I watched the linemen going through the drills and, you didn't feel like a whole lot of companionship between the group. It seemed very, kind of disjointed. But this year, big difference. Like I was standing there next to you, and those guys seemed to really, support each other, work together. Last year was a big challenge for you, in dealing with all that. But what do you see now? Like what have you learned from last year to going into this year?
The difference from year one to year two, I think it's the freshman to sophomore jump that, that's when some major growth happens as football players. And I would expect to make it too, year two with Coach Ware, Coach Lee and myself, year two with a lot of the same guys, and doing stuff. And it's cool that you made an observation about the offensive line. I'll do what you're supposed to do as a coach. And they were young last year, but I'm lucky that there's an awesome group of individuals, that I get to work with on a regular basis, because there's a lot of good young men in that group, and to hopefully, music to you guys' ears, they could still get a lot better too.
Oh yeah, definitely. They look good. I thought they looked good.
Yeah, they definitely took strides. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of that, who are some of the leaders from this group, and what do you anticipate from the new recruits? I know that's hard, but I think that would be an interesting part from college. I never, coached that much college level. I only did 1 year, but I think that would be hard. You do recruit the kids, and then do they pan out? Don't they? Is it a totally different expectation, whatever? So, what do you think? This new group and also the group you have, who are some of the guys that kind of stand out for you?
When it comes to the leadership stuff, it's tough for where we are right now. Coach Mack has done a number of different things in terms of like the C word, the captain stuff. This off season, we kind of gave out a different title. He's calling them platoon leaders, and basically these are guys that are over the course of the summer break that are kind of extensions of us, ways to help communicate, maybe that there's some things that they should be doing on their own, even without us kind of prompting them to doing it, making sure guys are holding each other accountable. But, the leadership is always the thing that, man, not just here, but everywhere I've been, you spend so much time on it. And I think there's some truth to both, that some people just naturally show up with it. And I think it can also be developed. And the truth is that's where we're at. when you talk about this year's recruits, it's a smaller group than the previous year. You know, like last year we said the number was about 50. This year's group's a little bit over 30. And this isn't a knock on any 30 of those guys, but we're just hoping to count on them less than we did this past fall. Now that doesn't mean there's not opportunities for them in each and every group. You know, our job's to win football games, and I think we showed everybody that we'll play the best guys that are going to position us to do that, you know, regardless of stature or however long they have or haven't been in the program. To even zero out the class as a whole was a tough thing because there were some needs that we had to address, and we feel like we did. We wanted to get bigger in the wide receiver room, and I do think we added some height there. It was just the sheer number, the quantity of quarterbacks on the. You guys were at spring practice. Like, we needed some quarterbacks, so we got some arms and some guys that we really think that could put some good time in. That group of kids is pretty cool. Not a bunch of defensive linemen, but the group of defensive linemen that we did gets pretty interesting. I think those guys might be. There's only like 4 or 5 of them, but if they stick around and they pan out, it could be a pretty cool deal. So
this is kind of a follow-up to what Rob asked you, but I'm kind of curious as far as philosophy. Like, do you want big linemen? Do you want fast linemen? Do you want strong guys? Like, what are you guys trying to form on that group?
it's kind of cool that you asked that question because when I said I had to shuffle the deck, we're doing the spring recruiting stuff. So I just kind of adjusted some plans that we had. And guys the high school juniors that are going to be seniors next year ask similar questions like, what are you looking for? And it is for me, and I know it is for us as a program as a whole, like by far what the biggest thing is your film. You know, you are never going to get invited to campus based off what it says on the scale, like regardless of position, offensive line, quarterback, like your film. The analogy that I give kids when I'm out on the road recruiting them right now is, okay, when you graduate from a college or university, what's the next step? It's to get a job. Okay, so when you get a job, what's going to happen? You're going to have a sheet of paper with your name on the top, your work experiences, your accolades. What's that called? It's called a resume. Okay, your resume right now as a recruit is your film. Okay, that is by far the biggest mover of the needle for us. Is the player you are for sure. The second thing that I tell them they need to do is maintain coach's recommendation. So whenever I email or call saying, hey, do you have anybody this year? I'd like to stop in. And they say, yeah, I have Johnny, Jimmy, and Jake. Well, when I come back after the season, if it's just Johnny and Jimmy, there's nothing that Jake can do about it. You know what I mean? And I'm going to place a heavy premium in that interaction and in that reference. So like those are by far two of the biggest movers of the needle for, I think, for all of our recruits, but especially for me in the offensive line. Even though I've been a defensive coach for the majority of my career, I've been on offense for 1 year. I've coached defense for 11 or 12, whatever it is. Watching like offenses, especially offensive line play, the past 5 years, I'd say 7 years, as being an old offensive lineman, I was actually discouraged by a lot of the stuff that guys are being taught now. Some of the pull down stuff, some of the relying on position blocking. To me, it was softening up the toughest group that has to be on the football field. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it. It's really hard to take somebody, whether that dude weighs 100 pounds or 300 pounds, and move him off a spot that he wants to be on. But that's how you win football games. Like, right. That's literally how you win football games. Like, there's three. I tell guys, if you want to watch film and be good at it in the offensive line, there's got to be 3 boxes you check off. Their leverages we got to take care of: vertical, horizontal, and then like the lateral in terms of where the play is going. Vertical, you got to be lower. Horizontal, your hands got to be inside, and then you got to have location of play taken care of. If you check those 3 boxes off, you'll be fine. So kids worry about so many of the wrong things when it comes to the recruiting stuff. They really, really do. Have your coach trust you, play your ass off, and you will get recruited. Yeah. I had to send out DVDs. I had to send a DVD to this office. They can text me, they can email me, they can tweet me their film. And they have easy access to coaches in any and all walks of life. Like, yeah. you didn't have to look up a snail mail address like I had to, and hopefully it arrived to the right
Take
situation.
it in the
You know
mail.
what I mean? Like, man, nowadays the kids can make it harder than it has to be sometimes. Your
Yeah.
film moves the needle by far. And then once you get here, yeah, we'll height, weight, bend test you. We'll do that stuff, and that'll have some influence, but that's not why we're bringing you to campus. It's your film.
Drew, I had to send 16 millimeter films. You
Yeah,
had
I've seen those before. I've seen those before.
Mine was the VHS tape.
There you go. It's getting
I
better.
actually I was VHS transitioned into DVDs. So I did have some film on VHS, but not when I was a senior. It was on DVDs.
Hey, Drew, so you are now a coach alongside Coach Mack. You played under Coach Rees. You played under Coach Mack because when he was an assistant. Now he's your head coach and you're an assistant alongside of him. What is that like? I love Coach Mack. He's the reason we're doing all this stuff. You know, he's
Mhm.
he's motivating and he's got me fired up about this. But what's it like to be in there on the sidelines with him?
Every day is new learning, not necessarily through him, but just being back here in the room. The biggest feather in the cap that I would give to Coach Mack, and specifically addressing your question, is the point that you brought up. Like, I played for Coach Rees, and Coach Mack was the defensive coordinator the entire time I was here. So that's all I really knew Coach Mack was in that role. So now to not only see him in a different one, being in charge of the program, but obviously working closely with him, to see the guy that I knew, who was calling a defense and more position group coach, and the transition that he's made into administrator, and leader of the program, is really cool, because it is like he's himself. You guys know him, right? Like, he's himself. He's gonna say what he needs to say, and get his point across. And he's still the same person for sure. But I believe the coach that's here, the employee that's here, has done such a great job in switching from the role that he had while I was a player to the role that he now has. And that's what makes people successful, right? Like, if you're going to change jobs, if you're going to change responsibilities, you're going to have to evolve. You're going to have to do some new learning. And that's truly what I see after being gone for over a decade in specific relationship to Coach Mack, is he's still the same guy that was around, with his personality, which is a pretty cool personality in and of itself. So specifically addressing your question, just seeing the development that he's gone from the position coach, defensive coordinator that I know, to now being, the CEO of our football program, one that's very important, is the coolest observation that I've made specifically about him. Since being hired on, it's been really cool. And in addition to Coach Mack, I would bring up something that's pretty important to you guys, and hopefully everybody that's in RR4L, and that is Coach Mack, Coach Burkett, and Coach Lee. Okay, like, Coach Mack was a defensive coordinator while I was here. Coach Lee was my position group coach. I brought up Coach Burkett. He recruited me, and they're all still here. We talked about how turnover hurts football programs.
Yeah.
So those three guys are huge reasons why in the past decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, that we've been able to throw punches on a regular basis. What a nice luxury it is for anybody, alumni of the football program, to be able to come back in the past 2 decades, in the past 20 years, and see familiar faces. Yeah, you got to meet some new guys, some jerks like me sometimes that haven't been around. But those 3 guys, have been, you can't say enough about the time that they've invested. And if you throw Coach Rees in the mix, you add up that service time, it's going to total up over 100 years of service to the university, to the athletic department, and to the football program.
Hey, well, Drew, thanks a lot, man. Great job. I had a great time talking to you, and good luck on this season. I'm sure things are going in the right direction. And I think, like I said, you are a great addition to the program. So we're looking forward to seeing what happens this fall.
Well, I can't thank you guys again. What you guys do here, I've watched plenty of them. I don't know from start to finish all the time, but I watch them. And again, all the efforts that you guys do, excluding anything in terms of resources, just the time alone that you guys put in, is a really, really cool thing to see, from the sidelines. And I can share with you, like, Sunday morning, whether you're at the game or not, you always check the score. And when you check the score and we have one more point than whoever we're playing, you feel like you were part of it. You feel like you chipped into that Saturday. And when you check on Sunday and we have one less point, it cuts you a little bit. It sets the week off in a different direction for you. I can sympathize with that because I've done it for a decade here. I've been at different schools, but I was still checking our scores regularly on Sunday mornings. So I can tell you confidently via, Coach Mack, like every decision that's made, every practice that's scripted, every play call that comes in, every recruit that's brought to campus is done so in an effort to make sure that you guys have that Sunday morning feeling that's the one that you're looking for more than the one that you struggle with. That's never lost in here at any time of the year, at any point of the year. It's always something that's pretty at the front of mind for us while we're working.
Cool. Well, thanks again. We got to give a little plug one more time to John DeHodway as a sponsor for everything that we're working on. Next week, we got another coach. Tony Aruli is going to join us and give us his take on his time at Shippensburg. And so, Drew, thanks a lot. Great luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Rob.
See you, Drew. Thank you. See you, Franny.